guys, it's Jessii Vee, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about some of the ghosts and entities that live on top of Mount Everest, and a lot of these are true stories about people who climbed the mountain and had these very scary experiences. I had no idea there was anything supernatural on Mount Everest, but now I know, and now I'm terrified. So we're gonna get into that in just a moment, but first I want to say a huge thank you to Ballard Barn for having me. Ballard Barn is a rental property in Niagara-on-the-Lake. It's a 150-year-old converted barn. It is absolutely beautiful. I feel like when you step through that door, you're entering a whole other world. The decor is on point. It had everything we needed. The gardens outside are absolutely gorgeous. I kept saying that we were literally inside an enchanted garden the whole time we were there. And the host is the sweetest person ever. So if you guys are ever in the area or want to do some traveling, I will link Ballard Barn down below in the description. Definitely check it out. We will definitely be back there again. All right, guys, without further ado, let's get right into today's video. Mount Everest is plagued with supernatural phenomena, ghost sightings, and other unexplained occurrences. It's such a dangerous place to be. Stranded hikers are sometimes left exposed to the elements so long that they don't survive, so the mountain is like an open graveyard. Bodies are constantly abandoned or frozen in the snow, so it's no wonder that ghost sightings on Mount Everest are inevitable. So let's get into the very first experience. This one is called begging for food. In 2004, there was a man named Pemba Dorje who confessed to spotting black shadows during his ascent of Mount Everest. And here's a real quote from his experience. It's so creepy. He says, "When I paused at a mound of rocks, I saw some spirits in the form of black shadows coming towards me, stretching their hands and begging for something to eat." He says he thinks that these shadows belong to the mountaineers that died during past climbs, and his theory really isn't too far-fetched because it's sometimes tradition to leave a deceased climber's body on the mountain as a form of respect. It's also not the first time that people have reported seeing shadowed figures while climbing, which is so scary. This next experience is about flying objects. In June of 1933, a man named Frank Smythe suddenly sensed he wasn't alone as he descended from one of Mount Everest's notorious death zones. And during a break from this strenuous journey, he encountered the presence of a man. Frank divided his mint cake that he was eating and attempted to share half of it with his phantom companion. And shortly after, Frank discovered these two dark, bulbous objects just hovering above him as he was eating, and they were just sort of pulsating above him until they eventually disappeared into a passing mist, and then this man he was talking to and sharing his food with also disappeared. A lot of people who have heard this story have said it's probably aliens. Then we have a lot to do with Yetis on Mount Everest. Arguably, the best evidence of real Yetis actually comes from photographs of numerous large footprints found in snow on Mount Everest. Some of the photos were snapped by a Himalayan mountaineer named Eric Shipton, and here's a quote that he shared about his experience finding these footprints. "Late one afternoon, we came across these curious footprints in the snow. We did not follow them further than was convenient, a mile or so. These particular ones seemed to be very fresh, probably not more than 24 hours old. We had no doubt that the creatures that had made these tracks were Yetis." He had also said that he had seen one of them at a distance of about 25 yards before. He described it as a half man and half beast, standing about 5'6" with a tall pointed head. Its body was covered in this reddish brown fur, and it had a hairless face. So this explorer has seen them before, has taken photographs of them and taken photographs of their footprints. I can't even imagine what that would be like. Then we have a story called The Third Climber. In 1975, two men named Dougal Haston and Doug Scott claimed to sense a third climber aiding their survival during a particularly brutal night on Mount Everest. They were worried they weren't gonna make it. It was that brutal. They came across this ghostly mountaineer that apparently provided them company and encouragement, and they say that this ghostly apparition helped them get through the night. Now, I know it's easy for someone to hallucinate when they are doing extreme journeys like this, but for both people to see the same thing, that's pretty rare, right? There are so many stories about climbers feeling like they're on their last legs because they're not going to make it through the night, and they come across ghostly men who encourage them and help them. Then we have the scariest one of them all. Now, I'm sure this is more of an urban legend, creepypasta. This entity is called the Shy Guy, and I believe it's SCP-096. So this humanoid creature is contained by the SCP Foundation, and apparently when someone looks at its face, it will relentlessly pursue the individual until it devours them while screaming. Now, you might be wondering, why am I talking about an SCP in this video? And that's because the origins of this creature have to do with the mountain. It is said that it was once a normal human and a mountain climber, and one day he climbed the top of Mount Everest and he met SCP-1529, which is basically an entity that resides near the summit of Mount Everest. It appears to be dressed head to toe in what resembles standard mountaineering wear and boots. Its face is entirely obscured by the hood of its parka and what appears to be an oversized pair of opaque black mountain goggles. So this mountain climber was climbing along, ran into this strange entity with goggles. It was staring down at this man. The man was begging it for mercy because he felt like something awful was about to happen. But SCP-1529 deformed him. It stretched out his limbs, it turned his skin pale, and this mountain climber was just weeping as this was happening to him, as he was being stretched out and turned into all kinds of weird shapes and forms. Then SCP-1529 laughed at this mountaineer's pain and then walked away shortly after, leaving him transformed into this hideous, terrifying monster that you do not want to run into. I just think all the pictures of this thing is terrifying, especially the backstory, so I had to include it in this Mount Everest video. But before we end this off, I just have to ask you guys, if you could climb Mount Everest, let's say you had the time, the money, the tools, the skills, would you climb the mountain? If you would, comment the mountain emoji, and if you wouldn't, comment the crying face emoji. I definitely would not. I'm terrified of heights. These things freak me out. It's just so dangerous, but if you're brave, power to you. Anyway, so guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!